So as many of you would have seen in the test day drive video, the alternator was squealing its tits off, and the reason for that was tensioner pulley. Now the tensioner pulley that's on there is also however old from the DAF truck. So I ordered a new one off Matt. That right up today. I've got an LS1 alternator to go on it. I've got Dodge Ram vac pump, Dodge Ram power steering pump. Get rid of the engine-driven compressor. Engine-driven compressors work a hell of a lot better than electric, let's not lie to each other. But the problem I have is that compressor's quite old and worn and needs a rebuild kit, and it's actually cheaper to buy an ARB twin than it is to get a reman kit for that. There probably is someone out there that can do it, but I'd just rather electric, put some weight down the back, take some weight off the front end. Now, this is what I was saying: Dodge Ram vac pump, Dodge Ram power steering, non-hydro boost pump, and just a standard LS1 alternator. I've got an 8 PK pulley coming for it. I run these because 1, they're cheap, 2, they're easy to get, and 3, you can get them way up there in power output. You can get up to 215 amp output, and then I only have to have 1 alternator on the shelf for 2 cars. And then within our friendship group, there's then 4 cars that all run the same alternator. 5 cars actually. This probably won't be this video. I'll probably do a separate one on this, actually taking everything out and that. What you will see is the completion of these bumperettes. Alright, yesterday you saw me just make these up from scratch. They're just 75 by 50 by 5 RHS. Actually a piece of steel scrap from another project that I actually pulled out of the steel bin at work. Just a bit of 5mm plate on the back side. There's 5mm plate inside the frame there too to actually sandwich these bolts in. Just welded 2 nuts onto it. Piece of 50mm by, I think it was about 70mm long, angled, welded on there. Piece of leftover tube I had from another project, and then another piece of 5mm plate on the frame rail there, picking up the original mud flap hole, which won't do fuck all because it's only an M6, and the original tow hook / tow bar mount. So yeah, she is coming along nicely. Just got to repeat it on the other side. I left a fair bit of a gap. There's obviously still movement because everything's loose, but there should be about a 10mm gap in there, so then when I smack into stuff it won't destroy these quarters because they are alloy. And yeah, they get destroyed way too easily on Defenders. Alright, repeat it on the other side, but the other side's going to be interesting because this inner section will all have to be modified and notched at the back for the exhaust. Let's get into it. As you can see, up in there, I had to get creative and bend it around the exhaust and then just teed into the original tie down point. It gives enough clearance for the fuel bowl to come off and also gives us some protection. I would like to put a panel in here so then it does protect a lot of the mud and other shit that gets in there. Yeah, I reckon they came up alright. They seem to be pretty strong. I did put a high lift on them and it does lift the whole arse end of the car, so that meets my criteria. And then I just put a piece of aluminium strap in the backside of the flare there. Now I actually ended up changing my mind a couple of times with these. So these have a clip on the backside. Slide that out, mud flaps out for doing, you know, the harder tracks where you know you're going to lean the side of the car onto something. And then when you're running down the road, doing long trips, slide that back in and away you go down the road. Stones, everything get caught, and these are just leftover pieces of conveyor belt rubber. Now I ended up changing my design towards the end there. I actually ended up adding in a sleeve through it instead of my original design of having the mud flap sitting underneath it. I wanted it so it was quick release, and I ended up changing the front edge of them a few times over, so that's why you didn't see it, because it actually took a couple of days of tinkering to see what works for me. I will tie them into a rear sort of protection bar and some rear corner protectors, possibly rear sliders as well. But you'll see all that on another episode of Declan Shed. Remember, life's too short to drive boring cars.